Thanks, Shelly. So welcome to our Lunch and Learn for the third quarter. I really can't believe that in a couple of days it's going to be fourth quarter. But these past 3 months, we dedicated our tech talks to hybrid cloud, and we've had some really great conversations. In July, we talked to the Lenovo CTO about hybrid cloud. August, we brought you a wonderful conversation with Microsoft, and just last week, we spoke with Intel and VMware. So as we wrap up our, there we go. As we wrap up our hybrid cloud quarter with this Lunch and Learn, we hope to have eliminated some of the confusion and misconceptions that surround hybrid cloud. In just a minute, I'm going to hand off this presentation to Etienne, who's a part of Ingram Micro's own CloudLogic. But before I do, I just want to remind everyone to make sure you've registered for our booster program so you can take advantage of things like demos, market development funds, exclusive promos, and more. And then once you're registered for Booster, or if you are already, please click the link I'll put in the chat around our Yellowstone contest. We'll be taking our top 10 partners who show growth, who show the highest percentage of growth across our ISG and IDG business, and only purchases that come through Ingram Micro will qualify for the contest. So I'll get those links into the chat in just a minute. Any questions on any of that, please reach out to me, and I'll hand off now to Etienne.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and I am very excited to be here with you. About a year ago, CloudLogic became part of the Ingram Micro family, and today I'm here to talk to you about how in a combination with Lenovo and CloudLogic and Ingram Micro, we can help you both expand and augment both your public cloud and private cloud hybrid data center capabilities. There aren't any questions to begin with. I am going to share. If I may ask, just I guess Jamie, we don't really have a way to do any polling. So what I will do is I'll skip over those. I'm going to ask how many organizations here have a hybrid data center practice, but based on that, I don't think we're going to be able to poll it. So no worries. Well, first things first, I am, like I said, I'm really excited to be here. We have a lot to talk about, and I think that with all of the transformation we've seen in the industry, with all of your clients asking for new and different things, I think this is an area where Ingram Micro and CloudLogic can really help expand your portfolio while giving you a way to drive a significantly more Lenovo sales as part of the process. So who is CloudLogic? And just to give a little bit of our capabilities, CloudLogic was founded about 4 years ago, and we realized that there was a gap in the market, that as organizations were trying to tackle the cloud problem, that what was happening was that there were different people in the marketplace who all would give them different answers. So the challenge was, if I go and I speak to the public clouds, of course, AWS, who is a very good partner, will tell you that AWS is better than everyone else, and Azure will tell you that they're better than everyone else. And when you sit down and you look at it, if you go, what about private clouds? VMware obviously has a strong play in terms of what they can do in terms of both automation and orchestration. And so the challenge that we found is that organizations are struggling to figure out how to build a portfolio of services, how to build that hybrid data center capability of services. And so we recognized that required us to rethink from the ground up how an enterprise organization or even a medium-sized business would think about both public cloud, private cloud, and the traditional data center. And so we've had great success in the process of doing this. Over the last years, we've been recognized by Gartner and Forbes for both innovation and quality. The team who built CloudLogic, I'm one of the founders, actually has well over 20 years of helping organizations do very high profile, high visibility, both migrations, aggregation, consolidation, and helping them build a business and financial technology portfolio that allows them to drive and deliver services to the business in a more cohesive manner. And then last but not least, we've got the experience of having done this many times. So we've supported well over 2,000 migration projects. We've delivered well over 1 million workloads, both to public cloud, private cloud, and data center to data center. And the key thing here is that we're not partnered with just one cloud. As we work with different cloud providers, our goal is to help organizations figure out the right tool for the right job, and that may be the best fit, or it may be best of breed. It's part of figuring out what that portfolio looks like. And so in order to do that successfully, we've partnered with the 3 biggest public clouds and of course with the largest private cloud provider. And so from that's really the foundation of who we are. We're going to talk about several offerings today, but I wanted to lead off, since this is very since everyone here is a Lenovo partner, I wanted to lead off with an offering that's going to help you drive additional Lenovo sales. And I want to show you why that is. And at the same time, while giving your customer a way to derive savings as part of their business. So let's talk about that. From our perspective, we offer something we call infrastructure optimization. And infrastructure optimization is a service that's going to look very familiar. As any of you who've worked with Cisco, Lenovo, HP, Dell, they all have a tool or a capability that allows you to go tell them what an existing environment looks like and what type of aggregation ratio you can get by modernizing it. So hey, we can take all those Xeon 8320s and we can modernize them into something current and ideally something like ThinkAgile and be able to derive a smaller footprint while driving down your cost of ownership. So that's great. However, if you think about those are all cost conversations. So yes, I'm going in and I'm telling them, hey, I can reduce your footprint by 2/3, or I can reduce your footprint by half. But the problem is I'm still asking you to spend $2 or $3 million with us. And so what we realized was that there was a gap in the market with an opportunity. And so as part of partnering with CloudLogic and Ingram, one of the things we can do, we can run that analysis for you. But part of what we can do now is tie it into an existing software footprint and be able to show them how they can also drive out savings in terms of their Windows licensing, their Red Hat licensing, things like SQL Server, things like Oracle. And so what happens is by tying it to socket-based licenses and being able to show how taking from, say, 600 or 800 different sockets now down to 200 or 100, we can actually show them a cost savings every single time. And that cost savings is not trivial. It is expected that for every $1 of infrastructure that is spent, $3 in software is being spent. And so if that's the case, I can turn around and now derive savings in such a way that whatever they do is going to be cost benefit positive. This is a great way for you to have a modernization conversation with your clients about ThinkAgile, about Lenovo platforms and tools and services, and being able to tie that into a larger cloud discussion. Because part of what we can do when we do this comparison is actually compare it to AWS and Azure. And the answers might not be as obvious as you think. So as we go through the process of analyzing their existing footprint, and in some cases doing electronic discovery to validate that, we then can run it through a technical and financial comparison. Here's an example. We took a look at one customer where they had 31 Sun-based Oracle. I'm sorry, these were x86. Excuse me. Where they were looking at 31 Oracle x86 based database servers, and we looked at the age of those servers. We ran them through the process, and we were able to consolidate them down from 31 to 3. That sounds very, very aggressive. However, this was well over a 4 or 5 year amortization cycle. So that modernization really was driving the same level of compute power from 31 to 3. And so, well, that's great. That's a good place to start, smaller footprint and things like that. What we were able to do is show them how, because of doing that, their Oracle spend went from overall, including all the infrastructure, the Oracle, the power and cooling, the headcount, et cetera, that we were able to reduce that spend from $5.1 million over 3 years to $1.6 million. That's about a 68% savings. And so that now all of a sudden tells an entirely different story. Now I'd be foolish not to do it. And we did also compare hyperconverged with AWS and with Azure. And in this case, AWS and Azure came in significantly higher. And so where we look at cloud, and the way we look at cloud is that it's a portfolio. If I'm going to turn around and I'm going to deliver a private cloud capability, and I'm not planning to leverage a cloud native platform like, say, Lambda or Azure Functions or Google Functions, then all of a sudden I have an opportunity here to be able to drive expense savings through modernization and consolidation. And so from that point of view, what I'd love to do is actually show you how we're able to identify that. I have a fire alarm going off here, so if I'm going to ask really quickly, I'm going to put everyone on mute and tell them it's a false alarm. I'll be right back. Okay, my apologies everyone about that. I literally have a fire alarm going off behind me, but it's been something that's been happening today, so we know it's a false alarm. So moving right along, picking up right where we left off, I want to show you how we derive those savings. I want to show you that it's not just a silver bullet, that it's not just that there's the magic numbers and the numbers come in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a different case study where we looked at a $45 million spend and consolidation across a wide portfolio of services. And by the time we were done, we were able to show them how they could save over $24 million, or roughly 45%, in 3-year savings. So let's take a look at that. As I look at that, we have multiple different areas of opportunity for savings. We have when you sit down and look at it, obviously I'm gonna be able to save an FTE if I'm able to reduce their footprint by 2/3 or by 3/4. I'm going to be able to drive significant cost savings. And so as a result, there we go. Alarm is off. Okay. As a result, you can certainly drive some savings. We definitely drive. If you'll notice, we drove over 80% savings in terms of their Windows 2000 server 2008 data center support costs. We were able to drive down significant savings in terms of SQL Server, and you look at that. It's huge. So yes, even though I'm going to go spend on several $1 million of infrastructure, I can save $1.5 million in SQL Server licensing. I can save, in this case, because of the derived savings, I can drive down the power and cooling costs by 90%. But it's over here. It's where we're looking at Oracle WebLogic and Oracle DB Enterprise that you see where most of the money is really derived. And so it's in these software savings where we can actually identify and make every single opportunity a savings opportunity for you and your customer that then unlocks the ability to go talk about hyperconverged like Think Agile. And so part of what we do as part of the analysis is also to show a payback period, because the idea is that the payback period is always under a year if we can demonstrate that. So in this case, yes, they went out and spent $4 million in infrastructure. That's going to come out of the year 0. So we're underwater. But you'll notice that by the time we break even, it's only 5.8 months into the year. And by that time, now all of a sudden we're in net savings year 1, year 2, and year 3. I'm going to pause and see if there are any questions before we go on to other capabilities and services. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Is Kevin breaking up for anyone else, or is it just me?
Yeah, I couldn't hear. Kevin, if you do have a question, can you put it in the chat? You're just a little bit hard to hear.
Okay. I'm going to, Kevin, please do put your question in the chat. I will be happy to wrap back around and address it as soon as I know what it is. Oh, no question. Okay, perfect. Okay, then so this is something that we do repeatably, and this is something that we demonstrate time and time again, that software savings are an important way to drive infrastructure spend. And what's beautiful about this is that in many cases, that software spend may be tied to a different partner. And so this is an opportunity for you to create a conversation, create an opportunity, and to show your customer that doing this type of work can derive, can actually net them, that they'd be foolish not to do it, because it can net them significant amounts of savings over a 3-year, 4-year, 5-year period. So let's talk a little bit about CloudLogic in terms of our capabilities. That was one of the optimization capabilities that we just highlighted. We also offer capabilities specifically through our partners. So everything we do everything we do through partners. And so the key here is every one of you have the opportunity that if you want to stand up either a net new cloud capability or augment your existing cloud capability, CloudLogic brings you multiple different areas designed to be able to have you stand up that capability in 1 month. And the idea here is that most organizations, in order to stand up a capability similar to what we offer, will take well over 1 to 2 years, and you'll need a human resource investment of 8 to 10 to 12 people. And all during that time, you're trying to figure out how to make it profitable. Keep in mind, I come from well over 10, 12, 14 years in the channel, actually. So this is something that gross profit is king. And so this is something that we understood and we built around, because every single one of CloudLogic's founders came from the channel, came from a partner like you. And so as we sit down and look at it, we've got 4 what we call major beachhead capabilities. These capabilities are designed around an end-to-end solution portfolio that I will show you in just a moment. But the idea is that this is where we find clients struggling. And so this is a great way to start a new conversation, to open up a net new capability with your existing customer, so that some other partner doesn't come in and attack it. And by the way, by the time we're done, your customer is probably going to have some form of a hybrid data center that is going to enable you to sell a multiple set of items, whether that's networking, whether that's Lenovo, or whether that's AWS, Azure, and Google. So let's talk a little bit about those. Cloud enablement is really what you would expect to see from an organization who is trying to go to cloud and scale. What that means in this case is that anyone can stick a credit card in Amazon. Anybody can turn it on and fire it up. And in fact, many departments do. The challenge is what happens when your IT organization needs to get back in the game. And so that IT organization is trying to figure out, how do I build a cloud center of excellence? How do I drive governance? How do I set up a roadmap of capabilities? What are my shared services? All of these different types of capabilities are what we build cloud enablement to answer. And that's important, because what it does is it sets the foundations and the roadmap of capabilities, so that now, as we look ahead, enterprise organizations can then turn around and expect and depend on that roadmap as they plan for their future. Step 2, we see where people struggle, is application rationalization, something we call placement. Rationalization is really where they're looking at which applications make sense to modernize. And you're going to see a lot of firms going in and talking to them about digital transformation. And here's the secret. When they're going in and talking about digital transformation, they're talking about 1 or 2 key applications. They want to go deep, and they want to go very, very, very strong into a couple of key applications. But here's the question. Are they the right ones? How do we programmatically look at it to assess and run what-if scenarios around which applications make sense to actually invest in for cloud? So that helps you look at the business, the financial, and the technical in order to derive which applications are the ones we should prioritize and which ones we should put into a hold and keep that potentially could go onto a hyper-converged infrastructure. I'm sorry, was there a question? Oh, I thought I had some background noise. I apologize. Okay. So we're going to show you some placement elements here in a little bit, but I wanted to highlight that for you, because this is something that's genuinely unique. If you are a partner who has software development capabilities, we can build a backlog for you by going through this evaluation process. And again, it's turnkey for you as a partner. Also, we are able to help you prioritize and understand a 2 or 3 year backlog of what types of services your client is going to be buying, which means you can now plan for it and actually position for it ahead of all of your competitors. Migration transformation is almost exactly what you think it is. When we find most of our partners, have invested into some migration capabilities, usually tied around data migration and cloud tools. Those are really important capabilities. We have the ability to actually go beyond that. And so we support you doing a cloud migration and transformation in your client. And however, you're going to also potentially come across a few applications where the business cannot go down, where the business needs extra rigor and focus to go against it, to be able to understand how do we ensure that we have a backup plan? How do we ensure that we've got user acceptance testing? What happens minute by minute in order to make sure we don't lose a transaction, or we don't have a downtime that's unplanned? And so when it comes time to do that detailed planning, that rigor around the most complex and most high visibility applications, this is where our DNA comes from. And so CloudLogic has the ability to offer you detailed migration transformation services, whether that's data center to data center to cloud, ironically cloud to data center. And by the way, IDC found that last year about 40% of the workloads that went to the cloud came back, and also cloud to cloud. And so that migration transformation capability is something that will absolutely pair with you if you have a capability, and if you don't, it's something we're happy to offer you as a support capability. And that's a key theme I want to talk about here, is that you probably have cloud engineering and or cloud migration transformation capabilities. Where you do, we want to simply augment your portfolio and offer you additional capabilities so you can keep other partners at bay. And then last but not least, we've got optimization. Optimization really comes in three flavors. You've heard about infrastructure optimization, where we showed you how you can show software savings in order to drive infrastructure spend. We also have software licensing optimization, which is designed to help organizations with socket-based applications, things like Citrix, Oracle, SQL Server, things like that, where they have had massive urban growth or urban sprawl and they don't know what they have out there, or they're concerned that they've got rogue installs out there and they want to be able to understand what's out there. Now, there are many of you probably have a capability around software asset management tools, things like Snow software. It's a good product, and we're certainly not here to disparage it in any way. What we found, though, is that software tools that are in the SAM space tend to rely on the licensing server that it comes with that vendor. So if it's Oracle, for example, the Oracle licensing server, it tends to communicate and rely on that. What it doesn't do is go through the process of understanding where it's installed. Is it actually being utilized? And so we can identify orphaned and abandoned installations that they're paying for unnecessarily. We can also identify installations that are massively underutilized, whether it's that they've got 90% more capacity or they have 50% more capacity. But the idea is that those become consolidation targets to drive out software licensing. And again, remember, every dollar of infrastructure, that enterprise is spending $3 of software. So there's a tremendous opportunity here to drive savings, to open up and unlock money for other projects that you have, especially now that organizations have started to really turn the taps off because of fears of a recession. So we have infrastructure optimization, we have software licensing optimization, and last but not least, we have cloud cost optimization. For organizations that want to go into cloud that are trying to figure out why their cloud bill is growing, most organizations try to address this problem by using a tool. Cloud Checker, Cloud Help, Turbonomic are all wonderful tools. We like tools. We support tools. We use tools, candidly. However, what happens when I get beyond the three things that the tools can find? And that is where CloudLogic can actually help you find 7 other savings in terms of cloud, whether that's egress fees and understanding misconfigurations, where it's information lifecycle management, where it's looking at storage optimization, where it's looking at the things that the tools can't tell you, because the tools focus on, if in a public cloud, they focus on infrastructure as a service. They focus on your virtual machine components, and that's an important place to start. 2/3 out of every AWS bill is EC2. Period, in general. And so as a result, the tools are able to help you find savings there. But what happens when you need to get beyond that? And that's really what cloud cost optimization is designed to deliver. And we do that in a manner that derives value and drives $3 of savings for every dollar you spend. So these are the 4 major areas that we find clients struggling, and we find that partners have an opportunity to open a net new conversation. So if I recap it, it's what is my cloud strategy and what is my roadmap? Which applications make sense to go for cloud? Help me execute for cloud. And then ultimately, once we've done that, help me optimize for both my data center, my hybrid data center, my software, my infrastructure, and ultimately my cloud cost spend. And that's part of an end-to-end solution. And this is something I really wanted to highlight for you, because when you look at their capabilities here, this is really designed to augment your portfolio of services, whether it's for public cloud, private cloud, or traditional data center. And what we find is any organization going through a cloud transformation program goes through all of these steps, whether they do it or whether we do it or whether you do it. The key here is they're going to go through it. And they do it in some form or fashion. So when you look at that, we've already talked about enablement, we've already talked about placement. Discovery is really understanding the current state. I have yet to come across an organization that trusted their CMDB better than 90%. And in order to do these types of migrations to ensure that you don't bring the business down, you need data that is perfect. And so electronic discovery is our way of being able to do that. And we have some unique areas that are not the topic of today's discussion, but we have some unique ways to differentiate you there too, where we can get in and get you rich data that is much deeper than most tools can provide and build those relationships and those affinities and dependencies. We've talked a little bit about placement. I'm going to come back to that one in a minute. We find that a lot of partners like you have invested into this area, architecture and design. Sorry, wrong mouse slide, but architecture and design into this area. So the ability of understanding what are my solution patterns, have I built the landing zone? And again, this is public cloud. In terms of private cloud, VROPS and VRA automation, all of these elements of being able to support things like Tanzu and being able to support containers and Kubernetes, those types of elements are all things that you can do in both a public cloud and a private cloud. And again, this is where hybrid data centers are important because I can drive a lower cost basis in my private cloud and in my traditional IT while driving a higher opportunity and innovation capability with my public cloud. And then last but not least, of course, we talked about migration and transformation and optimization. And so this is an area where CloudLogic is looking to partner with you in order to be able to drive additional areas that don't fit within your portfolio or that have not yet been developed in your portfolio. And again, we plan to do that, and we do that with the idea that we can stand up a capability in less than a month versus what would take probably 2 years for you. So time to market is key. I'm going to pause for a moment. We've been going for about 28 minutes, or 25 minutes, give or take. Let me ask you, do you have any questions so far about what we've talked about? And if so, go ahead and put them into the chat or feel free to chime in. This thing's going to be the death of me. I've got an alarm again.
So Pratik just asked, how can partners leverage CloudLogic services when they have a Lenovo data center opportunity?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question one more time?
Sure. How can partners leverage CloudLogic services when they have a Lenovo data center opportunity?
That's a great question, and thank you, Pratik. So when you sit down and look at our capabilities, there's really two areas where if they've got a Lenovo data center capability that they're looking to expand on, one area is like we said, being able to show them how we can drive cost savings. So that component of portfolio optimization, infrastructure optimization is key. That's very important. The second piece to it is something that I would talk about we can do in placement. Now, you've heard me talk about what if scenarios. So if I can take a step back really quickly and look at it, if we've, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Hey.
Did we have a question?
Conference call.
I don't think so.
I'm going to go ahead and mute Bruce. No problem. So if we go back to that capability that we talked about, if we have a good understanding of the applications in your environment, and this is an example of being able to dive in and understand the portfolio of applications. We have a good understanding of the portfolio of applications, then we have the ability to identify that we have what's running within the box and what the box is itself. And this is very, very important to the story because once we're able to do that, we can actually group applications by who depends on whom. So when you're looking at what makes sense to operate in my data center from an infrastructure capability, from a sizing capability, from all these different elements, we want to make sure that we're making highly coupled codependent applications all live together. That's part of your sizing analysis, and it's crucial. Because once we do that, then we can actually sit down and run a business analysis on, does that application make sense to run in a private cloud? Does it make sense to run in a public cloud? And what are the different components of doing that? And so part of that is we look at it and score it across 8 different dimensions. So whether that's a business opportunity that's being created, whether it's new or old in its life cycle, whether the solution that's being provided is fairly mature, solution maturity. Also, if you're a managed services firm, we also score in here, does it help you deliver a different type of operational services in a different operating model? So this is a way to drive more managed services business, again, within a Lenovo data center opportunity. So as you can see, what we're really doing is chaining you to multiple different vectors that ultimately allow you to go deeper and wider in your customer. And part of what we do is we do that across a TCO. So we look at it one-time costs. We look at it in terms of 1 year and 4 year. By the way, it can be 3, 4, or 5 year. It depends on what your client's amortization cycle is. And we give them the details of documenting it. So this is really crucial because what we're able to do is give them a leave behind that says, this is the answer and this is why the answer was this answer, which then ties into a business case, which was supported by a decision tree, which then lays out a multi-year roadmap of what the transformations are going to be for that application. And again, that now creates a backlog for you as the partner to be able to support development services. And if you don't want to support those development services, you can work through us and make margin on every single transaction that you're doing with them. So you can make, our services are designed so that you can make anywhere from 30 to 40% margin as part of what you're doing with that customer, because again, this is setting them up programmatically in order to be able to go there. Pratik, did that answer your question?
Yeah, perfectly. Thank you.
No problem. And I really want to call something out here, because when you hear people talk about hybrid data centers, when you look at architecture designs that look like this, where I've got an important hybrid data center that's sitting over here, but I'm also trying to build in, you know, a public cloud or a private cloud type capability. One of the things that we find is that the conversation point for why people are doing the things they're doing has changed. In the old days, and by the old days, I mean, you know, that's so very 2015, we found that applications always drove the conversation of where services lived. Today, we no longer find that to be the case. And this is where it's vitally important for you to be working with your customer in order to have a data strategy. And I bring this up because I want to highlight why a private cloud actually could be a key point to this. If you sit down and you look at something like this, let's say that I've got a data team, and then let's say that our customer has, for example, some IoT use case where they've got either, let's say it could be NOAA and weather satellites, it could be Apple Watches that are feeding you data, it might be Caterpillar and their big truck and their earth movers being able to report back maintenance. Whatever that IoT use case is, it doesn't matter. The key is they're going to feed a ton of data to you. And where you put that data first is going to drive a lot of decisions. So let's just say that I've got a team right now who loves what Google can do for Google Cloud. And this is key to a Lenovo data center, by the way, because what's going to happen is, let's say I feed all that data into Google Cloud. And so I feed it into PubSub. I build this really cool pipeline that builds across data flow to do my ETLs. I store it in BigQuery where I can do these great data, enterprise data warehouse analysis. And I've got Data Lab in place to be able to support all of the experimental analysis I want to do. And ultimately, because what I want to get to is some sort of machine learning model that will allow an application that's being developed by a different team to be able to query for AI and be able to predict whether or not, say, that's fraud, or whether or not, you know, I need to go start shipping equipment out. And let's say that it's a key is that it's a transaction system. And so the development team, who's not working with the data team, of course, because, you know, why would they? They, of course, went out and built their application in AWS. And the problem is that they went and built that AWS application over here, and they're trying to connect it to a machine learning model that's sitting in Google. And the problem is, let's say that I've got 100 milliseconds of latency. For a transaction system, that would be the death of that transaction system. I wouldn't be able to do it. So now the question becomes, well, where do I put this stuff? Well, if I have if I'm 100% in the cloud, there really is no choice, because where I put the data, in order for me to extract that data, and let's say it's petabytes and petabytes and petabytes of data, in order for me to extract that data, I've got to pay roughly 7 to 9 cents a gig. That doesn't sound like much, but across petabytes, we're talking about hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars, which means now you're going to go back to the app team and say, sorry, you need to go over here. But this was perfectly avoidable. And that's the key to this, is if I'm thinking about my hybrid data center properly, and I have a hybrid data center where, say, I have, let's say, a Lenovo environment that's sitting over in Colo North and Data Center South, I can actually stage my data here. And the key to this is that if I turn around and do that, let's say I build a managed file transfer environment out here. Now, if I have an application or the data team wants to go build something over in AWS or Google, I don't care. because I have first copy data sitting in my private data center. And again, that'd be part of a Lenovo data center story driven by things like Think Agile. And so if I am able to do that, instead of having to pay 7 to 9 cents a gig to pull that data out, I can just abandon the data if I don't care. So what happens is, by thinking through a data strategy, I can build a lot of agility into my hybrid data center model for cloud. And this is why when you saw on slide 1, we always love to start with the story that Paul Moritz talks about, which is that cloud is not where you do computing. Cloud is about how you do computing. And so from that point of view, we think that this is something that is massively differentiated and a capability that you can bring to market in terms of as a partner of Ingram Micro. So I want to just leave you with 2 other key thoughts, and then I'll and then we'll open it up to any questions that you guys have. First things first, one of the most important things in terms of professional services we've learned over the years is that it's 6 times harder to sell a new project to a new customer than it is to sell the next project to an existing customer. And so one of the things that we do as part of CloudLogic, as part of supporting that Lenovo data center capability, that professional services capability, that hybrid data center capability, is that every one of our services are designed to flow to the next problem the customer is needing to solve. So whether we start with a small workshop that turns into a strategy, that then turns into a detailed plan, which then turns into execution, every step of the way is designed to chain. And so that is designed to help you be stickier with your customer and to be able to drive additional services and product sales with that customer. So from that point of view, I'd love to point out that, for example, in this case study, we had this was actually a health insurer, and the CIO was the company was getting in the papers because they were not able to support open enrollment scale at the time. They wanted to go to the cloud, but they had a requirement. They had a state requirement that the data had to remain in state, and unfortunately, that was nowhere near any of the cloud regions. But also, too, there was a requirement that they needed to control the data. They did not want to put any of their PII on a customer platform, on a public cloud platform. So we helped them figure out a strategy where they had built and worked with a couple of co-location providers that were cloud adjacent that would allow them to control the data, be able to reflect that data near the cloud, but then be able to use the cloud platforms supported by the burst stability and variability to support things like open enrollment and claims adjustment. And so what was really neat about this was we solved her problem by being able to get her control over an outsourcer that she was frustrated with. But in addition to that, as part of building that hybrid data center model, as part of driving that hybrid capability, we also delivered $8 million worth of product drag in the first round to the partner, and we delivered another $13 million of product drag to the partner in terms of once we expanded into analytics. And last but not least, that also drove a $100,000 a month managed service capability, all delivered through the partner. And so what started out as a $5,000 workshop turned into $1.6 million worth of revenue for the partner that they were making margin on for professional services. But more importantly, $21 million worth of product drag, along with another $1.2 million worth of managed services over annually. This is huge. This is game changing for partners who are looking to be able to keep other partners at bay. So last but not least, I wanted to talk about engaging with us, and then we'll open it up to questions. In terms of engaging with us, one of the key things that we're always looking at are how do we help you go to market more effectively, more cost effectively, and more efficiently. And so one of the things you get as part of engaging with us is a bunch of materials that you can use and co-brand with us. We use something called the Powered by CloudLogic model, and that's designed to address a thing Gartner was talking about, which is the idea that you want to work with a cloud boutique when you're working with cloud. You do not want to go with big general organizations. They talk about always wanting to work for a cloud boutique, and then ultimately being able to deliver those services branded with your brand, your capabilities. So it's always you, the partner, powered by CloudLogic. And as part of that, we offer at-a-glances, battle cards. So at-a-glance is a one-pager. We offer battle cards. We offer a sales overview. We offer SAO templates. We offer offering overviews, you name it. And so those things are able and designed to help you go to market. With that, I'm gonna, and then again, these are designed that we can work with you in a couple of different fashions. But apparently, my third fire alarm is now having the fire department dispatched to my house, so that's awesome. I'm going to need to put everyone on hold, but Jamie, could we do a quick favor and have you see if there are any questions? I'm going to step away for a quick moment, and I'd be happy to address those questions.
Yeah, no problem. So if there are any questions, feel free to come off mute or put them in the chat, and we'll have Etienne address those as soon as he gets back. There is a deck I will send out either later today or tomorrow that has 10 slides. It contains the key takeaways, different questions you can ask around CloudLogic to your end users. So we'll get that out to you so you have all that information. And Etienne should be back shortly.
Yes, Jamie, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
You're calling into Ingram's desk. What's the best extension to call into for this?
For CloudLogic.
To get a quote.
Let me get that for you. I don't have that offhand.
Is it a special number, or is it on the sales or the technical side?
I believe it's going to be more on the technical side, but let me get you that information over.
Okay, I put a chat out there.
Oh, now I see it. Yeah.
Thanks.
If anyone had any questions around the Yellowstone contest, I put a flyer into the chat that gives you the instructions on how to actually register, what the first username is and your temporary password. When you're entering your account number, I can't remember if it's with or without the dash, so try both ways if it doesn't take it the first time. But we want to make sure we get as many of you registered as possible.
I don't see the chat link.
For the Yellowstone contest? Put it back in there.
Oh, it's in chat. Oh, there it is. Thank you.
No problem. And that'll be for you and a guest to go to Yellowstone if you're one of our top 10 partners that shows growth across both sides of the portfolio. It looks like Etienne is back.
I do apologize about that. The Gig Harbor Fire Department sends everyone their regards.
No problem. While you were gone, Josh asked a question. If they were to call about CloudLogic to get a quote, is there an extension you can be reached at, or the best way to get in touch with you guys?
Yeah, so you can certainly reach out to CloudLogic at ingrammicro.com. And that goes to a couple of us to make sure that if one person's on vacation, we can respond quickly. What we usually do as part of engaging together is we'll sit down and talk to you about what the opportunity is. And then what we'll do is work with you in terms of scoping the opportunity and then ultimately helping you put that in place. So very rarely do we walk in and it's like, here, just give me a quote. It's usually developing the sale and making sure that we ultimately are delivering what the customer is looking for. So it's a little more traditional consulting in that sense. And we're happy to do that as part of the pursuit process with you. And that process happens at no cost. So whenever we're in pursuit mode, that always we do with the partner at no cost. And then we work together in terms of delivering a proposal. That's something that we provide to you. And in this case, we have two ways we can work together. If you want to carry the paper, we can be a sub to you. And if you do not want to carry the paper and you would rather be an agent, we can do an agency model. So either way, we're happy to work with you, but that's something we'll work together. Excellent.
So I know we're at time. That was the only question I saw in the chat, Etienne. So
Okay.
Thank you very much. It was a great conversation. I love learning more about CloudLogic, especially as you're incorporated into Ingram Micro. So great conversation. Anyone else that has questions, please reach out to either myself, Pratik, or the CloudLogic at ingrammicro.com, and I'll get you guys a copy of the information Etienne sent us.
Thank you all very much. We're really excited to be part of the Ingram Micro family, and we're looking forward to working with each of you as partners and helping you drive your Lenovo business.
Thanks all.